Yet another big doubleheader Sunday coming up. But I've done this once before during this tournament, and I shall do it one more time for good reason. I'd like to start by saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening all at one go. There's a reason for it. It's because of where my guests are. I'm saying a big good morning to Shaun Pollock, good afternoon to myself and everyone else who's with me in this part of the world, and good evening to Lisa Sthalekar at lovely Sydney Harbour.
Hi guys, how you going?
Yes, good morning, Gautam.
There you go. And as the day goes on, obviously, the world keeps turning, and we'll keep informing you where everybody is, because it's going to be a date change for Lisa very soon, and we'll try and keep track of that. For now, what we need to keep track of is the game that lies ahead. Yes, it's Bangalore against Chennai, and just to confuse us, they're in a different color. So just make sure you're focused. If you're following the men in green, it is Bangalore. It's Chennai. This is match number 44 from Dubai, but we will be bringing you both the games. Match number 45 at night will be the only two remaining teams who haven't played this weekend so far. It's the Royals against the Mumbai Indians. So much to play for. That is a clash of the blues. But let's start with what we're talking about here. And it's the Royal Challengers Bangalore in green taking on Chennai. It's going to be an interesting clash, but let's just start by telling us what happened last night. Shaun, let me bring you into and say hello.
Yeah, Gautam. Last night we were talking about tub thumping. It was a song that came into being in the 1998 era, and it was a bit of a team song for us at the time. And I told you the story. So we toured Australia in 97, 98, and we got a bit of a thumping in the test series. But then after that, we played some really good one-day cricket. And because we were playing nicely, this tub thumping song had come along. I get knocked down, but I get up again. So it became our theme song. And every time we won, we turned it up as loud as possible, particularly when we were in the dressing room next to Australia, because we wanted them to know that we were fighting back and that we were going pretty well. And in fact, in Melbourne, I think it might have even been in the first final, Steve Waugh came walking past our change room and made a comment about the song. So we knew it was getting to him at that stage. So it was a bit of an anthem for us as we went on. But it sort of came back to haunt us. The 1999 World Cup, if you've ever been to the old dressing rooms in Edgbaston, they're only separated by a very thin wooden wall. It's no concrete involved there. And when we had lost and we were all sitting with our heads in our hands and there were a few tears going on, the song that popped up out of the Australian dressing room was Tum Thumping, as loud as it could possibly be. So it's a bit of a sensitive song. That's why when it was mentioned yesterday, I was keeping very quiet. It's got a bit of a nerve to it, but I thought I would just let you know why.
I think that's the first time, Lisa, I've heard anyone, especially the likes of Shaun Pollock, Alan Donald, Lance Klusener, even refer to that game, let alone be so forthright with the story of that song. For those of you who haven't heard it, if you've ever played, if you're a bit of a gamer, you will have heard that as a theme song for certainly football games, if not cricket. But before we talk about selecting teams, Lisa, songs and your dressing rooms, have you ever had one that stuck out?
Just a little bit like Shaun was saying, it's all about a certain tour, a certain song. And to be honest, I was always terrible with the music choices. So I just listened to whatever people put. But I remember one story we had was back in the day, you used to buy a CD player, a portable CD player. Everyone kind of saved up the money. And then what you would do is at the end of the tour, you'd put everyone's name in the hat. And then whoever's name was left got the CD player. Only issue was for about 5 tours in a row, whoever got the CD player didn't get wasn't selected the next tour. So everyone's like, please, I don't want the CD player. I want to keep playing.
It was your exit ticket.
Yeah, correct. It was like, here's your parting gift. We haven't paid you anything. You probably had to pay for the privilege, but we'll give you this and off you go. You're done.
Yeah, win some, lose some. But I can promise you, never mind if you make a dressing room, never mind what your choice of music is, we are not biased. All you need to do is pick a perfect team, and we promise you, you'll always be a winner. How do you do it? In case you need a reminder, My 11 Circle, get onto the site, download the app, pick 11 players who you think will score you the most points today, and then, of course, pick a captain and a vice captain, double or 1.5 times the amount. in all the chat about music and tub thumping and whatnot, let's remind you that it's the Royal Challengers Bangalore won the toss. No hesitation in wanting to bat first. And I think to keep that theme of the song up, Chennai will have to play it in their dressing room. We've got knocked down, but we can still get up, Shaun.
Yeah, scenarios.com. There's one last chance. Mahendra Singh Dhoni was playing it down at the toss, wasn't he? He was like, I'm not so sure about that, which is a bit of a surprise. Normally, you throw out that lifeline as far as you can possibly run with it for. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have to work out in the favor. I think we've even got a graphic of it, and I'm not going to read it through there. But the moral of the story is, after reading those 7 lines, you can actually still decide that CSK can get through and maybe make it to knockoff and even maybe win the RPL for 2020.
Sure,
probably not likely.
I can tell you something, Lisa. If they come through this scenario, they will be my favorites to win the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an essay. So, you know, I'm glad that we've kept that graphic up for a long time, because it does take a lot for them to get through. A lot of scenarios. I think that is why MS Dhoni was playing it down, because realistically he feels that there isn't. But I'm glad that we are throwing the hope line out there for the Chennai fans. You know, we'll do it. If no one else will do it, we'll do it here at Cricbuzz.
But I think the main part of that scenario, Shaun, and in a sense, after playing it down, he mentioned that we're taking it one game at a time. The first thing they need to do, the first box they need to take, is win today's game and win it big.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's all they can control. You know, it's sometimes dangerous in these kind of times when you've had a team that's underperformed, sitting bottom of the table, just with the 6 points, the 3 victories. You can try and take pressure off yourself in many ways. You can say, oh, we're going to try some youngsters and we're planning for next year. It's what the coaches tend to do, just to buy themselves some time and take the pressure off their team and how they're going to perform. But in all honesty, they've still got a lot of quality players, and the performances and the results that they've achieved don't justify what they've got in that squad. So as much as they want to play things down and talk about what they might or might not do, they actually need to produce. And I think for their fans who've been loyal to them over the years, and to Mahendra Singh Dhoni as well, you know, his captaincy hasn't been great, and his performance hasn't been great in this tournament. So I would like to see a much better performance from them. You know, we talk about them being the dad's army at the start of the show, and it didn't affect them last year. But as you go through these different seasons, you do tend to get the feeling that at times the intensity of an older group is not what was required. When you look at like a Kohli, De Villiers, the running between the wickets that they do, you sometimes don't see that from the Chennai Super Kings in this current season. And it's something that part can be addressed. And I hope that they come back strong. And one thing's for sure, there's a lot of other teams in this tournament who all of a sudden have become CSK fans, because they want them, though they're knocked out, they want them to produce some good results, because it could help them qualify down the line.
The other thing to keep in mind as well is, whilst they may say they're looking for the future, there's so many futures up for grabs. So you mentioned, you know, the older players. Are they going to be selected again? Are they going to be selected for another T20 competition? Like, they actually need to perform if they still want to stay on the park. They need to lift their game. Otherwise, everyone will go, yep, nah, they've passed it. Too old, too slow. The problem is for Chennai is they've got so many players that they've got to hide in the field, and that just can't happen in the shortest format. So I think people are playing for their futures, whether it be in IPL, whether it be for Chennai, or, to be honest, for future T20 tournaments. So it's massive, these last few games.
I think the challenge too for them was that they picked a side that was very good in Chennai, and they dominated on their conditions. So there's a good chance the RPL doesn't happen in India next year. Now they have to try and plan and see, okay, what team can we put together to be successful in the UAE if the tournament goes back there? We know what the 3 venues are like. We know who's performed decently. So that's why it is an important 3 games, and it'll give the management, the captain, is Dhoni, is he keen to stick around? You know, will he play another season, or will he just decide, like he did with India, that on his terms he decides to go? We'll have to all see those. I mean, this was the quote that he made about our captains can't run away, and that's so true. You know, when you're in a sinking ship, the captain's the person who leaves last, and he's got to continue to try and lead from the front. He's been such a brilliant leader for them, for India over the different years. And, often it's been through his calmness and his own performances. His own performances haven't been great, but he still needs to stay calm. He still needs to try and show confidence in his troops and try and get the best out of them. And obviously these 3 games will be vitally important. I know some of them might have their heads on the plane already, thinking how they could get back to their own hometowns. But you've got to be asking them for a push for the last 3 games.
But importantly, I mean, we no matter what the future might lie for any of these players or MS Dhoni himself, as he said, based on that quote, these 3 games need to be played and he's going to be on the park. So I'm going to come to both of you, Shaun. I'll start with you. MS Dhoni in that dressing room, no matter what he might say to the person presenting the toss, what's he going to be saying in that dressing room? You've been part of South African cricket, you've been captain, and even when you started off, it wasn't the best time for South African cricket. What do you talk to your troops about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what kind of individual he is off the field. We obviously see a very calm demeanor on the field, and him with Stephen Fleming. I would imagine that it's a very well balanced and something that's not an emotional dressing room at times, and that they keep it very simple and very structured. But at the end of the day, once the off-field activities, once the negativity, whatever goes on in and around the side, you have to get to the stage that when you walk across that line, you've got that ability to focus on the bat, the ball, and keep the main job the main job. And I think that'll be the focus for them. It has been disappointing, but the main job is still to land balls in certain areas, to make sure you get yourself in and then be as destructive as you can and finish games off and take on the responsibility in the field. And I think the biggest thing for them would be, as I mentioned earlier, the intensity. I just feel like it's been lacking, and that's something I think they'll be very conscious of improving on.
Yeah, to be honest, even at the toss, Lisa, I was expecting him to come out and say, listen, we're not out till we're mathematically out. We're going to give this everything. Yes, cool is one thing, but he just seemed a little bit resigned, not just today, from the last game.
Yeah, it's been a different Mahendra Singh Dhoni, hasn't it? This edition of the IPL, and I'm not sure if lockdown has been a good thing. And you've got to remember that majority of the players, bar those coming from the CPL, they haven't played a lot of cricket, whereas the other guys would have still been training hard. And this is probably the question around Dad's Army. You have such a huge group of guys that are at the latter stages of their career. They're focusing on family, other business proposals, all sorts of things that cricket isn't their first and foremost. So I think that's probably shown up this year, and he looks a little bit tired. And like Shaun said, he walked away from the Indian team without a final game, a final hurrah. Maybe he has it in him just to walk away as well from the IPL. I'd hate to think it, because so many fans across the cricketing world would want to see him leave the game with a bit more of a respectable performance. But you never know. When you're done, you're done. I mean, Shaun and I certainly know that. And you just can't wait to not pick up the boots and not train and not do those bloody warm-ups.
Fair enough. Well, we'll come to warm-ups and these 2 characters, these 2 captains. But it's also the time on the show by now. We've probably discussed the teams threadbare, but because this game has a slightly different edge to it, that's why we've had this long conversation. But we do have the teams for you. There are changes, and let's start with Dad's Army and see what changes they have made for this game. And one name that we've been talking about from game 1 of the tournament, certainly I have, because I'd just come off the CPL and I saw him, and he was an inspiration every time, even playing for a franchise that was finishing at the bottom, Mitchell Santner. He comes across as a quiet character, but he contributes with bat, with ball in the field, and maybe he'll just inject a little bit that Dwayne Bravo did in a more flamboyant way, Shaun.
Yeah, he might. And I mean, I think it's dictated to by the surface. Both captains were alluding to the fact that it's a pitch that was used yesterday. It looked like it was really slowing up, and at this stage of the tournament, it's probably going to slow up even more. And he makes a nice contribution with the bat in hand as well. So he'll be absolutely chomping. I mean, Imran Tahir gets his second game. I've been a bit surprised that they haven't turned to him a little bit earlier in the tournament. But I think also what the focus has been for Chennai in many ways has been Sam Curran, and he's put in some really good performances. But I always feel that he's the kind of guy who complements individuals and complements the team and contributes in a certain way. I think in many ways there's been too much focus on trying to get too much out of him. They've played with his batting position, they've thrown him to the top, they've thrown him to the middle, They've put him in as a pinch hitter. I think maybe because he was the new kid on the block, maybe there was too much focus on what they tried to do. And I think that disturbed the sort of balance in the side at times. So I think that's maybe where they went wrong at the start. But it'll be interesting to see how the change of Santner goes. And on this turning pitch, I'm sure he'll have an impact.
Yeah, an interesting point of view there. And even with Sam Curran's bowling, he's been bowling at different times. The last game, he didn't even bowl at all when we expected him coming off a great batting performance. But let's move to the opposition, because they also have brought in an off-spinner in Moeen Ali. And Virat Kohli mentioned off-spinning all-rounder, Moeen Ali replacing Isuru Udana, who hasn't done badly for them, but it's just the one change. And I think this has been the one relief, Lisa, for Bangalore this season. Why they've done so well is because they've managed to limit the number of changes they've made. It used to be wholesale.
Yeah, it does. And whenever you're losing games, you want to chop and change and try and find your best 11. But the players are really starting to come and to the party and perform well. I've been expecting Moeen Ali to come in probably for the last few games. Even against Kolkata, I thought, with the amount of left-handers, Moeen Ali would have been the bowler that they would have liked. But it shows you now, and we were talking before the show, Virat is now enjoying his spinners. He likes these bigger grounds. He's giving them the ball a little bit more, and that shows by bringing in another spin bowler for a pace bowler. So they're reading the conditions really well, and he's got faith in his bowlers.
Yeah, as much as we discussed Chennai, haven't we? I mean, the intensity of RCB, I mean, they're in this tournament to win it. They're really in the pound seats. They won't be battling to get up for this game at all. Kohli's the kind of guy who's full of intensity, and stamina-wise, he's going to keep pushing his team the whole way through this tournament. So I think it's a good change. Udana hardly played a role in the last game, and on these wearing surfaces, it's always nice just to have the extra 2 overs of another quality international spinner. Yeah,
I can tell you what, this is the time of the season where you start referring to all your pre-season predictions. And I've just been looking at the notes that I'd made and talked about in the very first episode. And it's still alive and well, because despite connections to different franchises, I had also called that this might just be Bangalore's year. But we'll see. No bias involved there. It's purely from a neutral perspective. But we have a lot of Bangalore fans out there who are very passionate. But we will talk about the passionate captains, both Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni. And we thought we'd bring them together on one platform. And this is a platform you don't normally see them together on, and that's our Boost Stamina Meter. We normally feature one person, but this time around we're featuring more than one. Let's have a look at the leaderboard, as we always do. And lots of players who go up and down this leaderboard. And as you can see there, Jofra Archer leading with 82.6. Virat Kohli in second place there with 80.8. But what we're trying to do here is put in perspective this particular game. It's 2 workhorses of Indian cricket who are facing off against each other. And let's remind all of you, before Dhoni fans start tweeting and going, hang on, how is Kohli 80.8 and Dhoni 62.0? Well, it's been a tough season for MSD. And therefore, in context of this season, he's had a bit of a disappointment. But otherwise, we know that these 2 guys, and that's the discussion we want to get, Shaun, is they have shown the way for fitness for players and future players in India.
Yeah, they have. When Dhoni took over the captaincy, I've mentioned the word intensity, but that's exactly what he brought to the party. It was a calm, very calm demeanor in his captaincy. But when he got to the crease, he's running between the wickets, the way he conducted himself, the way he marshaled his troops, it was very good. And Kohli's continued to run with that. When you go over and go and commentate on the India-South African series, it's obviously we'll go have times where we finish a match. It might be early and we go to the hotel and I might go to the gym. I often see Kohli in that gym after a day's play, after they've even won a match, and you could be celebrating. So I think that Dhoni was the one who set that intensity, and Kohli in many ways has taken it to the next level. And that's important. The RPL has been massive. I think that the international trainers that you've got in there, the coaches, all the youngsters have grown up with a different mindset, what they might have done if they hadn't played in the RPL. And all that's been really positive for Indian cricket.
I think, Lisa, the purpose of that story from Shaun was that he goes to a gym after
he went to the gym. Yeah, correct. I got that. Yeah. Don't worry, that wasn't lost on me. I got it. but it's all well and good for the captains to lead by the front and actually go, fitness is important. But for them, and Kohli has done that, to actually drop players because they weren't getting past a score in the yo-yo, that sends a really strong message. Because in the past you can go, yeah, I'm not fit enough, but boy, I'm scoring all these runs or taking all these wickets. What does it matter? Well, it matters when you're not selected based on a yo-yo test. So that was a really strong message. Even MS Dhoni, I remember in Australia, the question was, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? And, only one reporter who I know quite well asked it, and he said, mate, am I slow? I'm pretty quick, aren't I? Like, when I can't run fast, that's when I'll retire. So, he's always stood out as someone that runs really quick between the wickets. So fitness has changed under both of their leaderships, and I'm glad for it because India now are a dominant force in all formats.
They certainly are, and we'll keep an eye, since Lisa brought that up about the yo-yo test. One of the gentlemen who was in focus was Ambati Raidu back in 2018, and he's going to be on the park today, looking a lot fitter and a lot hungrier for runs. So anything that happens like that is probably better from a future perspective. What about some of the youngsters? Somebody who's really been touted as a future Indian prospect and already shown his wares, and he is our My 11 Circle trump card for today, Devdutt Padikkal. A lot of you have been choosing him, but there are many others who are just wondering, okay, do I just stick to the big players? Do I put in a Moeen Ali today? But hey, do whatever you want to. Don't ignore someone like a Devdutt Padikkal. Yes, he'll be wearing green today. He'll be batting first. Very valuable points to come in there from Devdutt Padikkal. But also, we're getting very close to the start of the game. And while we will get our predictions in for that 20-over score, let's also start with our joy factor question for today. As always, it's relevant, it's usually topical, and it's been oscillating from the very easy to the very tough. Let's see where today's question features. I've been told it's slightly easier. Length delivery is what Joy is bowling to us on this Sunday afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. In one particular sense of this event, half of one team's total wins were by a 10-wicket margin. Just name the team and the season. One particular season of this event, half of one team's total wins were by a 10-wicket margin. Wow. I've
had absolutely no joy with any of his questions.
Yeah. I get confused just reading it. Like, sorry, can you break it down for me again? What do you want?
Yeah, well, we won't give any hints away at the moment. We can just say that
it's usually got to do with the team that's playing. So we've got to go one of these two, surely.
Sometimes it's got to do with people who are on the panel. Sometimes it's got to do with the day of the week, with the season, with the festival. Joy is very focused on basically everything. So, so you never know what you get from him. For now, our focus only has to be on a 20-over score with the men in green. Yeah, they're wearing green today. The environmentally friendly green for our My 11 Circle badge of honor. So, Lisa, would you like to go first? We'll go in order of time zone. So we'll start with the evening, then move to the afternoon, and then finish off the morning. How's that?
That's a good idea. I'm going to go 171.
171. Well, in green, I know they haven't done really well, but it's going to be an exception for them. Bangalore's record is not great playing in green, but it's going to be an exception today, and I'm going 186.
Wow.
186.
I think you guys are all missing the plot here. This is a usurp. They couldn't hit the ball off the square last night, and you thinking they're going to...
It's AB. They've got AB, Sean. Like, he's Mr. Superman.
But they're playing in green, and it's not proper green. Right. It's lime green. It's not South African green. So I'm going 157.
All right. Very low. All right. Fair enough. Sean's thinking like a bowler. Use-surf is going to make use of it. He thinks lime green or lamb green is very different from your South African green. All right, Sean, we get the message there. But South Africa actually, strangely, have played really well in pink, haven't they? Every time they've donned the pink, they've done pretty decently, unlike this particular franchise have in green. So we'll find out what happens there. Why don't we throw in some numbers before we go away? Bangalore in green, they won the first game they played, and that was against Kochi. That was easy to beat them every single time. And then once against the Gujarat Lions. So they've only beaten franchises that don't exist anymore. How's that? So they have not got a single victory against an existing franchise wearing green. How's that for a conclusion?
Well, didn't Kohli say at the toss that he goes, "Oh, we've got some great memories in green"? I was thinking, no, you don't. You don't.
He likes to play up everything, unlike MSD for now.
Yeah.
So he was just trying to play something up. It's Padikkal and Finch will be out there. We've got 157 to 186, and it's going to be fun and games. 10th over is Cricbuzz Combox, and then at the end, by which time zones will start changing for the three of us on the show, we'll bring you all the analysis. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.